What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. And today we are here for another episode of Let's Talk Dynasty. And more specifically, we've kind of already had these rookie training camps start to kick off. NFL training camp is either starting to kick off as we speak or is about to start later this week. So if you guys are looking for things that you should be keeping an eye on during the NFL training camp period and what you should be looking for from each and every team, we got you covered today. We're going to tell you guys one thing we are watching from each and every team in the NFL as the training camp period approaches. So without wasting any more time, let's hop right into today's video. And it wouldn't be an episode of Let's Talk Dynasty without my co-host. So let's make sure we get him into the building. War, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm getting excited. Off season so close, Hall of Fame games right around the corner, and I'm ready to get busy, man. I'm ready to talk about these teams around this NFL, man.
Hell yeah. I think people forget how quickly this season approaches when it gets down to it. I mean, the other day I was looking at something, it was like 50 days from week one's Ravens Chiefs. So like it is going to get here quickly. And for the folks that want us to dive deeply into each and every of the teams, we are going to do that. That is not going to be today's video. Like I said, quick surface level, kind of what we're watching at training camp. We are going to do our team previews, the same ones we did last year. We'll go through each division, talk about each team in depth. That'll be coming out over the next 2 weeks. So that's something we're going to be doing, but that's not what we're here for today. Today, we are here to talk training camp watch list or what we're watching, but let's go down division by division. We'll start in the NFC, we'll work our way to the AFC, and we'll kind of go back and forth on this one. We each took 2 teams from each division really to kind of lead or take the lead role on. And I'm going to have us start in the NFC North. And more specifically, I want us to start with your Chicago Bears. So what are you watching here during Bears training camp?
Well, Andrew, the easy answer would be Caleb Williams, right? I think the whole world, the whole NFL is watching Caleb Williams, and as by evidence of them being on Hard Knocks soon here. But what I'm going to be watching is the Chicago Bears backfield. We have DeAndre Swift, we have Marshawn Johnson, and Khalil Herbert. I do want to point out that this backfield is a work in progress, not necessarily at the top where there's DeAndre Swift, but more so with Khalil Herbert and Marshawn Johnson. This regime did not draft Khalil Herbert. I repeat, they did not draft Khalil Herbert, so I think there's an uphill battle for him, even to make the team. Marshawn, I think he's locked in. The front office made a commitment to him when they drafted DeAndre Swift. He's locked in. The front office made a commitment to him when they decided to give him $7 million. Khalil Herbert is the guy on the outside looking in, and I think it's a possibility he gets cut if he doesn't go out of his mind in training camp.
Fair enough. I mean, I think that there's a chance that if Khalil Herbert gets released by the Bears, and if that's something that does happen, there's a couple places he could go. Probably we'll talk about them in today's episode. I think of like the Dallas Cowboys, maybe the Cincinnati Bengals, a couple of these ambiguous rooms, maybe the Chargers, where they might need some extra depth at the running back room. It could make things interesting as we get closer to that NFL season. So that is definitely something to keep an eye on. But I agree with you. I mean, who isn't going to be keeping an eye on Caleb Williams? I just saw something the other day, the report where they want to kind of come up with the plan for how they're going to be utilizing him in the preseason. It's going to be a show. Everybody's going to have their eyes on Caleb.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ready. I'm ready, man.
Me too, man. I'm excited for Caleb. But let's move on to my Minnesota Vikings. One thing that I'm going to be keeping an eye on is just sticking in that quarterback room. And more specifically, I want to keep an eye on this quarterback competition that they have here in Minnesota between JJ McCarthy and Sam Darnold. Yes, Sam Darnold could be QB1 going into week 1, because right now, when you look at some of the training camp reports that we're getting out of, or I guess the early offseason reports, not the training camp reports of what we're getting out of Minnesota, is that they want to take it slow with JJ McCarthy, and that right now going into training camp, Sam Darnold is the starter. I think this is kind of the expectation that I had when they drafted JJ McCarthy, but I've also heard rumors about if JJ comes in and he just steals the job, Minnesota, Kevin O'Connell, they're not going to be shy to let him win the job in training camp. So this is truly going to be a battle. If McCarthy looks the part, I think they could go into week 1 with him as the QB, but if it looks like they want to give him a little bit more time and Sam Darnold just has a good camp, it could be Sam Darnold. So if you are taking one of these quarterbacks in your dynasty leagues, you're kind of waiting to see who's going to be the starter. I know some people have had Sam Darnold on the bench. There's going to be some implications here depending on how this QB battle shakes out in training camp.
Yeah, I think the Vikings are making the right move. You come in, you have Sam Darnold there. You know, he's young enough. He's had some success somewhat with the 49ers. And you got JJ McCarthy. I think that it's right to have him try to earn a job. I think it's better for him in the long run. Let him feel some of that competition, and it also gives him a chance to watch from the bench. But if he just goes bunkers in training camp, you have to start the kid. You absolutely have to start him. This whole thing where the quarterback has to sit a year, everybody doesn't have to do the Patrick Mahomes route. It's not an exact science. It's not a cookie cutter mold that determines whether or not a quarterback is successful in the NFL. And I think that it just all goes based on what a guy does. And if JJ goes in there, beats out Sam Darnold, then he should definitely be the week one starter. But also don't think it's time to hit the panic button if he has to sit and watch for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I think when a quarterback is ready, the quarterback will be ready. You know, it could be next year, it could be week 1, it could be week 6, it could be after the bye in week 10, whatever it is. Like when he is ready, he will be ready. And the good thing about a guy like JJ McCarthy, and even the good thing about a Sam Darnold, if you wanted to take a shot on him in best ball, or you want to take a shot on him early in the year and kind of punt the quarterback position in your redraft leagues, whatever it may be, the surrounding cast that they will have in Minnesota is one of the best in the NFL. I mean, when you're throwing to a receiver like Justin Jefferson, you have Aaron Jones out of the backfield, Jordan Addison, potentially, if he doesn't get suspended here very shortly. And just a couple other guys like TJ Hawkinson, he's going to work his way back from injury, but that surrounding cast, especially later in the year, it's going to be great. So very excited to see them. But I am also going to slightly, just as a fan, I'm going to keep a slight eye on Ty Chandler because I think he might have a bigger role than most people think.
I wouldn't be surprised, man. I wouldn't be surprised. It's not exactly like there's a guy running away with that position in that locker room. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's new people, right? Ty Chandler is actually the veteran in that locker room for the most part. Aaron Jones, obviously the veteran, but it's year 1 for him. He hasn't taken a snap for us yet, so we'll see. But you have the Green Bay Packers, so talk to me about what you're looking for in Green Bay.
I have the unfortunate task of talking about the Packers of Green Bay.
Well, I had to give you Green Bay because if it was me talking Green Bay, we'd just talk Jaden Reed for another, 5 minutes. So I can't do that.
Very true. Very true. Okay, so similar to the Chicago Bears, I'll be looking at that backfield in Green Bay. We have A.J. Dillon and Marshawn Lloyd. We know that Josh Jacobs, he's going to be the guy there starting off. There's no secret. I'm not the biggest Josh Jacobs guy. That's why I said starting off, because it's always like, I think Marshawn Lloyd has a chance to actually take that position. May not be this season, but I definitely think there's a world where Marshawn Lloyd ends up being a running back 1 for that team. But let's just keep it at the for now with A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon hasn't risen to the expectations that a lot of us thought he would have in fantasy. We all thought that A.J. Dillon would eventually take Aaron Jones' spot and he would be the running back 1 for this team, but it just didn't come together. And when it didn't come together, they went out and got Josh Jacobs and they drafted Marshawn Lloyd. They are 2 different kind of running back, but I do think that Marshawn Lloyd has more upward trajectory as far as being able to be a running back 1 for that team. I think that in training camp, he could actually earn the opportunity to be the immediate backup to Josh Jacobs. A.J. Dillon, he's a specialist. You could put him on the goal line. We're talking about Thighzilla here. Get him in there for the short yardage, but as far as a guy who you want on your dynasty team, I'm definitely taking Marshawn Lloyd over A.J. Dillon for dynasty in particular, because I don't necessarily think Josh Jacobs is going to do well from my experience of what I understand of how I've seen in my history of watching NFL. Usually when a running back switches teams, he doesn't necessarily set the world on fire. I've seen more failures than success stories. So we're going to see what happens. I would definitely want Marshawn Lloyd on my team if I have Josh Jacobs, and I want him on my team, period.
Yeah, I mean, Marshawn Lloyd is a player that I really liked. I mean, he got the draft capital that you want, that 3rd round type of draft capital, the day 2 draft capital that we want out of these running backs, especially if they're going to end up being big contributors for us in dynasty moving forward. Obviously, you can have some outliers, but you really want the draft capital. And I think a lot of people are nervous about Marshawn because Josh Jacobs has came. It's kind of been like, yes, they drafted him, but they also got their starter long term. And I am in agreement with you where I think Josh Jacobs is definitely going to be their guy right out the gate. That's what they paid made him to be. But Marshawn Lloyd, he was my running back 4 in the class. He's a guy that I had very high grades on. I thought he had a lot of juice. I mean, he has the ability to catch the football out of the backfield. He's good in between the tackles, kind of an outside zone type of runner, which actually would kind of excel in this Matt LaFleur type of offense. I love Marshawn. He's definitely a guy that I'm going to be keeping an eye on, and I wish I had more Marshawn on my dynasty teams at the moment.
Same here. I don't have quite enough shares of them, but that could be my agent for the Packers. But,
Fair enough. It is what it is, man. I got a lot of Jaden Reed, and I wish I had more Marshawn Lloyd, but outside of those guys, I don't know how many more of those players I'm rostering. I guess I could have some Jordan Love here and there, but outside of that, I don't know. That's just fandom, though. Whatever. I will take it to the other team in the NFC North. We will talk about the Detroit Lions, and more specifically, a player that I'm going to be watching is Jameson Williams, because I feel like Jameson Williams is getting that offseason hype train, and it started early on. I mean, you got guys like Dan Campbell talking about how JMO is a man on a mission, how he's looked better than he's ever looked, and this is a guy who, keep in mind, was a first-round NFL pick. They traded up for Jameson Williams, in fact, with the Minnesota Vikings, to go get Jameson Williams, and this was going to be one of the key pieces of their offense moving forward. I think it is going to be make or break time for Jameson Williams in this offense. If it doesn't happen this year, it's probably not going to happen, or it won't happen with the Detroit Lions, because I can't imagine that he will have earned another contract with them moving forward. I'm going to be keeping an eye on JMO, because if they get anything worth of what he was drafted to be, I think it's going to make this offense even more dynamic, a deep play kind of player on this offense that they just don't really have right now. Obviously, they let Josh Reynolds go. We'll see what happens, but Jameson Williams, he's a guy I'm keeping an eye on.
Yeah, and historically, I don't know if people notice, because we haven't talked about him in so long. You're not historically a Jameson Williams guy.
No.
He does have the draft capital. He did have, the good profile coming in. He did have the screw up to start off his career. So I definitely think that served as a setback. And I think he's a guy you could definitely probably buy low on and just take a roll of the dice with him. He's still going to have to contend with Amon-Ra. He's still going to have to contend with Sam Laporta for those touches, and Jahmyr Gibb for one, because he's going to catch a lot of passes out of the backfield. So, I mean, it's still an uphill battle as far as like him being the man on a mission and actually being able to live up to that hype that he had coming into the NFL. But I could definitely see a path forward for him. And if you could get it for cheap, then why not?
Yeah. I mean, it's a crowded offense, but he was drafted to be a playmaker in this offense, and we'll see what he ends up being. But let's go over to the NFC South. I'll kick it off here in the South, and I'll take the last place Carolina Panthers. And if you've been watching the channel, you probably are expecting me to say that I'm watching Bryce Young, but I am not watching Bryce Young in this offense in training camp. Surely I am watching him, but I also am watching Jonathan Brooks, because they placed him on the non-football injury list. And the reason why I say I'm watching Jonathan Brooks is because I'm more interested in watching Chuba Hubbard, because there is a real chance that Chuba Hubbard goes into this week 1 for the Carolina Panthers as the starting running back. I almost feel like it's the expectation right now for the Carolina Panthers. And he actually looked pretty decent last year in spurts when he was playing behind this offensive line. And this offensive line is much more improved going into 2024. So not that I really love Chuba Hubbard. I mean, full disclosure, I did like Chuba a lot coming out of college. He hasn't lived up to what I thought he could be. He is going to be leaned on. And for those of you that are in redraft or best ball or whatever, he is very undervalued right now. I think a lot of people aren't really operating with the idea that he is probably going to be getting the majority of the reps in Carolina for the first 4, 6, 8 weeks of the season. I think he's somebody that we should keep an eye on, because if he looks good behind this offensive line, he could be a value in drafts later this fall.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's easy to get stuck on all the hype of the offseason and guys and where they're being taken on keep, trade, cut, and things like that. But that's what you ultimately want to do with Dynasty football, right? You want to find those injuries. You want to find those little nooks and crannies of bits of news. That's why we're doing this show. Nicks, bits of little pieces of news that you can use to have an advantage over your other league mate. Finding the guy, and then particularly running back. Running back is a very fluctuating position. I don't know if fluctuating is a good word for it, but running back is the one position in fantasy football where you can find that diamond in the rough. All you have to do is pay very close attention to what's going on in training camp, because when I tell you that most sleepers probably come from the running back position. And it's probably going to be some guy on some team somewhere that didn't have a lot of hype coming out of the draft. He's going to end up the starting running back for that team. And that's definitely the case with this one. A lot of people are on Jonathan Brooks. And Andrew knows. Like, I sold Jonathan Brooks earlier this season, got a nice little haul for him. But that's just how high people are. And I think a lot of people have forgotten about Chuba Hubbard. Miles Sanders, man, I'm pretty much done with the Miles Sanders experience.
I did that last year, man. I told everybody last year to take Miles Sanders, so I apologize. But now I'm telling you to take Chuba Hubbard, and that's a much less expensive cost than Miles Sanders was last year.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Just like with some of the other guys we already talked about on the show so far, it's not bad to just take a little bit of a roll of the dice with Chuba Hubbard.
Fair enough. Well, talk to us about the Falcons. What are you watching there?
Well, with the Falcons, I am watching one man who came in with all the fanfare you could think of. I'm talking about Mr. Kyle. Now, has Kyle Pitts lived up to the lofty expectations that we have for him? No, the guy struggles. He's allergic to the end zone. That's the problem. But maybe, just maybe, the reason he's allergic to the end zone is because he's allergic to the quarterbacks that they've had behind center in Atlanta. We're talking about here. We're talking about freaking the Desmond Ridder, like guys like that, guys that aren't going to deliver the ball to a talent like Kyle Pitts. And now we have the entire fantasy football world questioning Kyle Pitts. I've seen the guy sold for what would amount to peanuts so far, and I think this is going to be his opportunity. And to be quite frank, his last opportunity to to show that promise that he showed coming into the NFL that we thought he was going to do. Like, this is the same type of guy. We're looking at him the same way that we were looking at Brock Bowers this season. Like, you can't miss prospect, and he just has not lived up to it. But now he has Kirk Cousins, and I guess he has, Michael Penix. If he's good, we'll see. But he definitely has Kirk Cousins for now. So let's see what you could do, Kyle Pitts. Let's see if he could go ahead and become that guy we thought he could. Right now, I feel like all the focus has been on Drake London. But we got to show Kyle Pitts some love too. And I want to see what he does in training camp and see if he can form that connection with Kirk Cousins and take it into the season.
Yeah, I mean, this whole offense is going to look different. It's going to be something to keep an eye on in general. It's coming from that Sean McVay coaching tree with their new OC here. Their head coach obviously was there last year, but he's coming from the McVay tree as well. Like, it's going to look very different. And I actually teared down from Sam Laporta to Kyle Pitts in one of the leagues we play in together. I'm very strong in my tight end room there. It's a tight end premium league. So I could afford the tear down of Sam Laporta, but I'll keep an eye on him too. I mean, I have invested interest in this guy now that I have my own share of Kyle Pitts, and I didn't have him when he was super hyped, but you're right. The hype for Kyle Pitts, I might even go as far as to say it was probably more hype for Kyle Pitts than what it was for Brock Bowers this year as a rookie. So if you haven't been playing Dynasty that long, if you're newer to the game, this is a guy that a lot of people thought was like, people were taking Kyle Pitts over Jamar Chase in rookie drafts. Let that sink in. That is what was happening. That was the hype for Kyle Pitts. So definitely somebody I think to keep an eye on. This offense is going to be very interesting to watch in general this year. But moving on to the New Orleans Saints, somebody that I want to keep an eye on is going to be Rashid Shaheed. And the reason why I'm keeping an eye on him is because the New Orleans Saints, they have placed Chris Olave currently on the non-football injury list. So he's not going to be going into training camp. At least I don't think the expectation is that he will be going into training camp playing. Now, that does mean that Rashid Shaheed could be the temporary wide receiver one. And not that I think he's going to be a long-term wide receiver one in this offense by any means. Chris Olave is a stud, but Rashid Shaheed, he just got some new money. He looked kind of good last year in spurts. I think he's kind of this sneaky ad that you can have in your fantasy leagues, in your dynasty leagues, in your redraft leagues, wherever you're going to go get him. I've been taking a lot of shots on Rashid Shaheed in best ball drafts because I can get him as my wide receiver 5 or 6 and then see what happens this year. He has the big playability. I think this is a guy who every single year that he's been in the league, he's gotten a little bit better and a little bit better. And he is now the wide receiver 2 on the offense. Michael Thomas out of town. Let's see what Rashid Shaheed can do this year. He's going to be somebody I'm keeping an eye on.
Say it louder for the people in the back. I have been trying to sell Rashid Shaheed for 2 days, and people are acting like I'm offering them a 5th round pick. I am high on Rashid Shaheed. I think he has great value. He's a speedster. He could do. I think he's shown enough to at least have people give him a chance. I looked at that depth chart earlier. You have Chris Olave, and that's it. Other than that, we're talking about the running backs catching passes in the backfield. So, I mean, the opportunity is right in front of Rashid Shaheed. Like you said, no more Michael Thomas. A.T. Perry, I think I heard somewhere early in the offseason that the coaching staff isn't necessarily liking what they're seeing from A.T. Perry. And Rashid Shaheed has already proven they got new money. You have to follow the money when you play this game of Dynasty football. They gave him the contract. So that means that they do believe in him. So they probably believe in him as the wide receiver 2 for this team, and potentially, at least temporarily, the wide receiver 1 as Chris Olave comes back from injury. So yes, Rashid Shaheed would definitely be a nice add for the end of your bench if you could get him for cheap.
Yeah, I mean, any type of chance where you can get more rapport with the wide receiver 1 off of the field, it's going to just help you, I think, as you get into the season. Derek Carr and Shaheed growing that bond. But shout out my Weber State Wildcats. I couldn't say anything about Rashid Shaheed without shouting out my Weber State Wildcats. So let's move on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, though. You have them. What are you watching here?
What I want to watch is I want to see if some of the young guys in their wide receiver room could take a step forward. Look, Mike Evans, he's not going to last forever. He's not going to continue on this Hall of Fame worthy path where he just continues to put up 1,000-yard seasons. Eventually, we're going to have to get some new blood in there. I'm looking at Trey Palmer. I'm looking at Jalen McMillan. I'm wondering if these guys can at least show in training camp that they have the makings of 2 wide receivers that could eventually be the wide receiver 1 and the wide receiver 2 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think Chris Godwin's spot is in danger this offseason. Like, if one of those guys go into camp and they spaz out, I can definitely see it having an impact on Chris Godwin's touches. Mike Evans, he's Teflon until he decides to stop playing. But Chris Godwin, with the injuries, with him never truly returning back to form after the big injury, I think he's right for the picking for one of these young guys to come in and supplant him a little bit. I don't think they'll put a plug on him right then and there, but they could definitely take down some of his snap share gradually. And I think one of these guys can do it. They just have to start showing it in training camp and start showing the coaching staff that they have what it takes.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. You saw in our Dynasty Tea Party League last night, or was it this morning? I was working on it last night. I think it went through this morning. I sold Chris Godwin. I'm not in on the Chris Godwin stuff. In fact, I bought my boy Troy Franklin a 2nd-round pick and some Michael Wilson. So we'll see what that turns into. But I think you're right. I mean, they drafted Jalen McMillan to be probably the long-term slot wide receiver here is what I would assume. We'll see if that is going to affect Chris Godwin in any way, shape, or form, but definitely somebody to keep an eye on. So let's move on to the NFC East. I'm going to start it off, and I'll kick it off here. Actually, you're going to start it off. You're going to kick it off here with the Washington Commanders. So what are you watching in Washington?
What am I watching in Washington? I'm watching delusions of grandeur. I'm watching people just being out of their mind. I think I'm watching people being bored with the off season. So they're coming up with silly narratives about what they think certain guys are going to and aren't going to do. I'm watching Jaden Daniels. All right, look, I've seen both sides of the spectrum with the opinion on Jaden Daniels this offseason. I've read an article that broke down into the tiniest detail why Jaden Daniels is going to be a bust. Holds on to the ball too long, tucks the ball, runs. The data, if you look deep enough into the data, it doesn't support Jaden Daniels being a good quarterback in the NFL. And I know this is about training camp, so I'm not going to go too hard on, but this is more so for the offseason chatter. But then I seen on ESPN this past week, there's guys out there asking if Jaden Daniels is going to be better than Caleb Williams, and they're saying Jaden Daniels has a better staff than Caleb Williams, and that he's just more prepared, and I think not. So I'm going to see in training camp if we're going to get a guy who's connecting, throwing darts to all his talent, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, all those guys, throwing darts to him. Is he going to keep up the hype? Oh, everybody loves Jaden Daniels. The teammates love Jaden. You're going to hear that a lot from every single team this offseason. Every coach is going to have rave reviews about every player. Every player is going to say that their guy is one of the best guys in the NFL. And I'm here to tell you, it's not always going to be true. So just watch what you're hearing, look with your eyes, see what Jaden Daniels is actually doing in training camp. And you don't have to overreact to it. okay, if he throws a few picks on one day, it's not a big deal. But I'll give you my personal concerns with the kid. He's small, and I think he's going to tuck the ball and run. He's basically going to be a Justin Fields that's not built like a tank. So we'll see how it plays out in training camp. But yeah, man, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean that there's a lot to unwrap there, but I think just like Caleb Williams, all eyes are going to be on these rookie quarterbacks. I mean, this is one of the more hyped rookie quarterback classes we've had in a while. Obviously, historic rookie quarterback class from the amount of them drafted in the top 12 picks. All eyes will be on Jaden Daniels, but I think for me also, I'm just going to throw something in there because I also want to watch just enough. Just keep a small little eye on Austin Eckler and how much is Austin Eckler going to be utilized in this offense, because it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. I mean, they paid to bring him in. It wasn't a lot. Brian Robinson's not special either. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this backfield.
Yeah, Austin Eckler, I think the decline is going to continue. Usually when you're at his age range and you've already shown decline, the correct decision isn't to double down on the decline and sign him to your team, especially when you already have a guy that's on the team that's not that remarkable in the first place. I don't think they're going to have a very good running game this season. And I feel like they definitely should have addressed it more, and not necessarily with Austin Eckler. I would have left Austin Eckler in the free agency ban, but you know what? They're the Commanders, and sometimes they just commander.
They had a lot of money. They could have called Saquon. They could have called Josh Jacobs. They could have called any of them, DeAndre Swift, whoever. But let's move on to the New York Giants. There's one thing specifically that I am going to be watching here. And now, obviously, a lot of people are going to want to watch Malik Neighbors, and that is obviously given. One thing I think we should probably not let go under the radar is what is going to happen in this tight end room. And more specifically, obviously, they drafted Theo Johnson. Theo Johnson is a guy that they invested in this draft cycle, probably going to be one of the guys for them moving forward in this tight end room. But let's not forget about a guy named Daniel Bellinger. And Daniel Bellinger is a guy that I kind of hyped up last year or 2 years ago or whatever. It was a long time ago. I feel like I had a lot of Daniel Bellinger on my Dynasty fantasy football teams, and he feels to me like a post-hype sleeper here. Now, the reason why we should watch Daniel Bellinger is because Theo Johnson, he was placed on the PUP just the other day. He won't even be at training camp to play. So Daniel Bellinger, this door is going to be kicked wide open. It is his room for the taking, and he has the receiving ability, the blocking ability, the athleticism, everything that you want. I think he could be a decent, sneaky little tight end for your Dynasty fantasy football rosters. And like we said, not a lot of people are talking about him because they forgot about him. So I think Daniel Bellinger is somebody to watch. And sidekick, watch Tyrone Tracy Jr. I had a lot of investments in Tyrone Tracy with like my last round picks and rookie drafts. I have him on every single team. There isn't a team that I don't have Tyrone Tracy Jr. I think he can win the running back 2 job behind Devin Singletary. And Devin Singletary, he hasn't been impressive for the most part of his career. So watch Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah. Before I get into Daniel Bellinger, I kind of had that. I was kind of scratching my head too, because we all watch Hard Knocks. I was kind of scratching my head too, the talk of Devin Singletary, and I'm like, honestly, I'll be completely honest with you guys. I didn't even know the guy had earned a nickname, let alone Motor. Yeah, so I was like, who the hell is Motor Singletary? Is that like some new? Is that a Mike Singletary Jr. or something like? But like, they're running back room is unremarkable, and if Tyrone Tracy is there, I think it's wide open. I think it's definitely wide open. Back to Bellinger.
Just one more thing I want to throw in there. It's nothing special. But you also got to keep in mind that Tyrone Tracy, he's a converted wide receiver that now plays running back. So that's kind of the appeal to him, I think, for the most part, is the PPR ability. I mean, think of when Antonio Gibson was coming into the NFL. A lot of the talking points about him was that he was going to be a pass catching back and he was a converted wide receiver playing running back. Not that I think he's going to be Antonio Gibson, but if he does become Antonio Gibson, he's still going to be a value because Gibson gave us a couple good seasons there for fantasy football. So that's just something I wanted to throw in there as well. But you were talking about Bellinger.
Yeah. Bellinger is a guy that initially I bought in on his site because you were buying in on his site. So I've had him on a couple of my teams and I just kind of just monitored them. And I was a little bit surprised when they drafted Theo Johnson because I thought they had a perfectly good tight end there in Bellinger. But I think he was coming off of, if I'm not mistaken, some type of eye injury or something of that nature. Some type of injury where I guess that was seen as a setback. Plus, they didn't know that Darren Waller was going to retire this offseason. They actually held out some hope. But Darren Waller is gone, and now you have a tight end room with Bellinger and Theo Johnson. Without Theo Johnson there, like I said, the thing with the NFL, injuries creates opportunities for other guys, and it's real dangerous for Theo Johnson because it's not like Bellinger is some slouch. Like, he could absolutely come in, have a great camp, end up being the starting tight end. Next thing you know, Theo Johnson, they didn't invest so much in him that they would just try to start him over Bellinger because of the draft capital. Like, there's a chance that they could keep Bellinger in that spot, even if after Theo Johnson gets healthy. So we'll see. Bellinger is a guy that I do have on my roster, and I actually have Theo Johnson and Bellinger, so I'm fine. But I lean more so towards Bellinger than Theo Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, and crazy stat for you, they were both drafted in the 4th round with the 7th pick in the 4th round, so they have the exact same draft capital as well. So it's not like Theo Johnson was really drafted higher than Bellinger. He obviously was drafted by this regime with, why am I spacing his name? He's on Hard Knocks. Dable. Brian Dable. Yeah, his coaching staff, they drafted Theo Johnson, but I think Bellinger's sneaky, man, and he's one of them Vegas kids that, he's Palo Verde High School, baby. So we got to rep the Vegas kids too. So Daniel Bellinger, he's a guy I'm keeping an eye on. Talk to us a little bit about the Eagles, though.
Now I kind of got a weird one for you guys. Some of you guys are probably going to be like, oh, what is he talking about? I'm actually going to be watching the wide receiver 3 position of the Eagles. I feel like that position has been vacant or understaffed for a long time. Like, you had all kinds of guys in that spot. I'm spacing names of guys to use for
Quez Watkins, Julio Jones.
Yes.
They were just throwing in bodies. Yeah.
Throwing in bodies. So now they got 2 kids that they drafted this year very late in the draft. They have Johnny Wilson and have Anaya Smith. Yeah, they got Paris Campbell on the roster and John Ross, but those guys are jacked, with all due respect. And I think one of these 2 young guys could come in and they could take that wide receiver 3 spot. In fact, I will have those 2 battling for that spot, along with Paris Campbell and John Ross. And I think one of the younger guys will come out on top. That's a position that the Eagles do need. They do need a new 3rd option. I don't think that Dallas Goedert is getting any better. I think he's actually probably a little bit somewhat in decline. So, I mean, it's not going to hurt them to have 2 young guys come up and take that wide receiver 3 spot and be the 3rd option after A.J. Brown and after Devonta Smith.
Yeah, well, and one thing to also mention, too, is that there was a lot of talk at the Senior Bowl and at the NFL Combine about Johnny Wilson maybe being a better tight end at the NFL level than he was a wide receiver. So you're right. Like, if Goddard takes a step back and maybe Wilson doesn't win the wide receiver 3, maybe it does go to Smith, then maybe Wilson just becomes the tight end to back up Goddard. And then there's something to look at there too. So I definitely agree. I mean, there's a lot of superstar options. You got the AJ Browns, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts. I mean, there's a lot here. We know what those guys are going to do. They're going to score a lot of points. I like the little bit of a deep dive here in Philly. Now, I am going to talk about Dallas, and this one's going to be a no-brainer. Everybody's going to talk about this with Dallas. And that is that this running back room is going to be a total competition between Rico Dowdle and, yes, Ezekiel Elliott of old. I think that this is a running back room that a lot of people, us included, talked about all offseason as one of the best possible landing spots for a rookie running back, even one of the best landing spots for a free agent running back. And free agency came, nobody signed, except Ezekiel Elliott, I guess. And then the NFL draft came, and Jonathan Brooks didn't go there, Trey Benson didn't go there, and Marshawn Lloyd didn't go there, and nobody went there. And so now we have to watch this battle of Rico Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott. And one of these guys is going to be fantasy relevant, whether you want them to be or not, because it's the Dallas Cowboys. There's going to score a lot of points, and there's going to be touchdown opportunities on the goal line in this offense. Rico Dowdle, he's the better pass catcher. Zeke's probably the better goal line guy. I'm keeping an eye on this. If I had to make a prediction today, Dowdle would be the one that I want.
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, before we even put this video together, I thought that I had to round the Cowboys. And it's funny because I picked the exact same thing. Like you said, everybody knew where we were going. It's very telegraphed. Who the heck is going to be the running back in this room? Are we going to have the renaissance of Ezekiel Elliott? Or are we going to have Rico Dowdle? We're going to have Deuce Vaughn, one of these guys. Like, I'm hoping that something happens like Khalil Hubbard gets cut or gets traded to the Cowboys or something. because it's really hard to believe that a team that has Super Bowl aspirations is really going to sit and depend on a running back with all intents and purposes is washed and a guy who probably would be a third stringer on a team with actual decent running back room. So we're going to see what happens. I think the option for Dallas may not even be on a roster, but I side with you. I think Rico Dowdle is probably the better option here, especially if you're in a PPR league. So, which at this point, who isn't in a PPR league? So,
yeah,
I mean, Dowdle is the guy for now.
Yeah, I mean, for now, I saw something earlier today about if there is any validity to this Javonte Williams potentially being cut by the Broncos situation, that would be a gift for Dallas to just get Javonte Williams and put him in this backfield. So we'll see what happens. But let's move on to the NFC West. I'm going to kick it off with the last place team from last year. We're going to talk the Arizona Cardinals, and more specifically, there's a lot of change here. You have Trey Benson that we could talk about. You have Marvin Harrison Jr. you could talk about. I could talk about Kyler Murray for the next 7 hours if we really wanted to. That's not what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to be keeping an eye on Greg Dortch of the Arizona Cardinals. And the reason why I'm keeping an eye on Greg Dortch is because he is slowly becoming one of my favorite late round darts to throw in these underdog drafts, because he has been working out a ton with Kyler Murray this offseason. And you look at this offense, we expect Marvin Harrison Jr. to be the number one, the X wide receiver on the outside. We expect Michael Wilson and probably Zay Jones to compete for the opposite side of this. I expect Michael Wilson to win that job. But in the slot role, it has been Rondale Moore over the last couple of seasons, but Rondale Moore now plays in Atlanta. Greg Dortch, he's looked good at in spurts at times. I think this is a guy that, if he is working out this much with Kyler Murray, if they kind of elevate him into the starting slot role, and if this offense takes that step forward that we do expect it to take, I think he is very, very sneaky, like might even be on the waiver wire in your dynasty leagues type of sneaky, where you could just add him onto a bench, see if some hype comes out, because I would not be surprised if him and Kyler have built a connection over the offseason and if there is an upgraded role for him in this offense.
Yeah, he will not be on the waiver wire in any league that you're in, because I'm sure you would have him. I did not have...
I wouldn't put this video out until I went and picked him up.
Exactly. I did not have a Greg Dortch mention on my bingo board today, and it surprisingly came from you. I think I may have traded Greg Dortch at one point this offseason for Fab. That's how low he was in my thoughts. But I can see it. The path is definitely there. No Rondale Moore. Not that Rondale Moore was a difference maker. Like, no Rondale Moore. We know Harrison Jr. I also expect Michael Wilson to take that side opposite of Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, Greg Dortch, he's a fine dart throw. He has done some good things in his limited time with the little limited opportunities he's had. And if he's been working out with Kyler, that at least shows that those two have rapport, and maybe Kyler will look his way a few more times this season.
We'll see. But you have the Seattle Seahawks. Let's go on to Seattle. What are you looking for in Seattle?
I'm looking at JSN. I mean, we've already talked about him on Let's Talk Dynasty on a few occasions. I'm looking at him. I think this is a very, 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 very important offseason for Jackson Smith and Jigba. I've seen a mixed bag of things about him this offseason. I've seen it that he's shown improvement, but then also seen that he's had an injury, a shoulder injury. He can very seldom survive any more setbacks. He can survive it, but it just won't be good for him. He needs to have a good offseason. He needs to have a good season. I mince my word. I don't mince my words at all. The guy needs to supplant. He needs to supplant Tyler Lockett. That needs to happen. We can't go another season where, okay, DK Metcalf is the one, Tyler Lockett is the two, JSN, he's on team. We have to know that JSN is better than Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett is on his way out. His sun is setting on his career. I don't expect JSN to leapfrog DK Metcalf, and that's fine. That's fine. He just needs to be what we thought he was going to be when he got drafted. And now we're at a point where if he doesn't show it this year, it's time to really seriously question if he's ever going to reach his potential.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be very telling for what JSN's career can be this year. And I don't want to say that he has to do it this quickly, but the reality is he does. And I think that they've set up a situation for him here in Seattle with Ryan Grubb coming from Washington, where they are going to try and make JSN successful in this offense. Definitely somebody to keep an eye on for sure. And I think that this offense as a whole is going to be interesting to watch because a lot of people are excited about Ryan Grubb's addition to this offense. So I think that's something definitely to watch. Now, I do want to talk about the Los Angeles Rams. And one thing to note is that I am becoming very bullish on Kyren Williams to go into this year. I think in a redraft format, a best ball format where I don't have to invest very highly in him. Obviously, in Dynasty, you know how we feel about investing into the running back. I love Kyren Williams, but you would be out your goddamn mind if I wasn't watching Blake freaking Corum at Rams camp, because Blake Corum is a running back that I really liked coming out of Michigan. I mean, I had him very, very high in my rankings. I think he was my running back 3 in the class as a whole. Look, I think Blake Corum, he has the ability to win your league if Kyren Williams does not pan out for what he should be. I think the reality is there is a lot to gain and lose by figuring out this backfield in 2024 because one of these guys is going to be a superstar. I think Kyren Williams is probably the guy. If he continues to have issues like he's had already this year where he had a foot issue, he missed some time earlier in the offseason. Blake Corum during that time was just getting praise after praise after praise from running back coach Sean McVay, everybody. They're talking about how great of a running back he is. If anything happens to Kyren Williams, that gap is just going to continue to shrink and shrink and shrink. Blake Corum has all the talent in the world. I think he's somebody I'm definitely keeping my eye on.
Yeah, man, you had me fooled there for a second because I had to scratch my beard a little bit. I said, okay, we're talking about we've been talking about Blake Corum behind the scenes all off season. I feel the exact same way you feel, to the point that like I've kind of turned down most of, if not all, Kyren Williams trades. And it's not that I think he's going to be, fish poop next to Blake Corum. It's just that guys, they use draft capital on the guy for a reason. Kyren Williams, he is a miracle of a player in the sense that where he was drafted, what was expected of him, his physical traits, what was shown in the combine coming out were horrible. And then boom, you have a season. He excels. He was somebody's sleep. He helped many win a league last season. But every team wants to bring in the guy that they want. And yes, I understand this same regime is responsible for bringing in Kyren Williams, but he was unexpected. These teams want a guy they expect. Kyren Williams got drafted late for a reason. Andrew, did Kyren Williams he got drafted right just late? He didn't go undrafted.
Yeah, he was a day 3 guy.
He was a day 3 guy. So as good as he was last season, there's still elements of his game that teams and even the Rams probably thought were lacking. Blake Corum probably can do better things as far as like blocking and things like that. For what I understand, Blake Corum is a very well-rounded running back. Kyren Williams is not. That's just the situation. Not only is he not, but he also has health concerns. So I think it's a situation where I'm definitely not going to buy Kyren Williams. If I have him, I'm trying to get Blake Corum, or if I have both, I'm in a good position. But yeah, man, I'm right there with you on being bullish on Blake Corum.
Yeah, if you have Kyren Williams in Dynasty, you need to buy. Like, you should. You have to go buy Blake Corum as the handcuff. You have to do it immediately. You should be willing to overpay a little bit to go do that as well. I think that's the reality of it. But Nick and I in the BDG office, we had a nickname that we came up with when we were scouting because we were sitting there grinding film, watching film. We had a nickname for Blake Corum, and his nickname in our office is No Mistake Blake, because he just is a pro's pro. He does everything correctly. He does it the way it's supposed to be done. He doesn't miss the hole. He makes the right read. He's not overly athletic, but he's no mistake Blake. And in the NFL, being a pro's pro is a very, very good thing for these NFL coaches. So take us to San Francisco. Talk to me about what we're watching in San Francisco.
San Francisco is going to be straight to the point, short and sweet. What am I watching? I got my goggles on. I'm looking around. I'm seeing, is Brandon Aiyuk on the field? Is he even there? Is he on the field off to the side wearing a Washington Commanders jersey? Is he off on the side texting Justin Fields and Russell Wilson with the Steelers saying, hey man, I want to come to the Steel City? We don't know. All they've done this offseason, all he's done is talk basically about how he doesn't want to be there, how they don't want him there. And then the 49ers apparently saying, we're not going to trade him. But we've heard that that before. I've heard 1,000 teams say they're not going to trade a guy, and he gets traded like the day before the season starts. So anything can happen with this. But I want to see if Brandon Aiyuk is going to be a professional. I want to see if he's going to make things ugly and not show up to camp and just be a locker room hazard. I want to see if he's going to actually come in and be a part of the team. If not, they'll have to look to see what other options they have that are already on the team that could step up and play for them. We know Deebo Samuel is going to be there. We know George Kittle is going to be there, but both of those guys, they're a little bit longer in the tooth. They're a little bit unhealthy here and there. I personally think the 49ers should have just went above and beyond, gave the guy the contract he wanted, made the guy happy, because he is their young wide receiver asset. I don't think they should even play with him and have him get traded to another team. But once again, I think this is just another case of the Kyle Shanahan arrogance. The same arrogance that led him to draft Trey Lance is the same arrogance that's leading him to not giving Brandon Aiyuk the contract he wants. We know that he has a big say in who gets the contract and who doesn't. I know John Lynch is there or whatever, but we know Kyle Shanahan, if he wants that guy to be in the 49ers uniform for the rest of his career, he can do that. But we'll see, man. I'm going to see if Brandon Aiyuk is going to be at camp.
Yeah, man. I mean, San Francisco, you should be paying Brandon Aiyuk. He's a pretty damn good player. And like you said, he's probably the future of this receiving room with teammate Ricky Pearsall, who unfortunately is not going to be at training camp because he is on the non-football injury list or something like that. He's on the PUP, something. He's not playing. So even if you were looking for him to step up in Aiyuk's absence, if he doesn't show up, he wouldn't be there anyways. So that makes things a little bit more trickier for San Francisco just on top of that. So let's move over to the AFC. I want to start in the North. We'll kind of work our way down the same exact way we did it. In the AFC North, you have the Cincinnati Bengals, who, for people who don't know, they were the last place team in the AFC North last year. So talk to us about the Bengals.
It's a surprise. Isn't it weird to say that the Bengals are the last place team? But it's not so weird when you think about and you remember the fact that Joe Cool, Mr. Joe Burrow, was not there. He had a little ding on his wrist. He ruined my redraft season because of the ding on his wrist. And this offseason, the narrative around him has just been weird, man. I don't know if I'm the only one who's been weirded out by it, but we've had the media talking about, will Joe Burrow ever be healthy? Will Joe Burrow, what's going to happen to his career? We've had Joe Burrow coming out saying, I don't know when my wrist is going to be better. I don't know what's going on with my wrist. But then he followed that up last week, basically saying he's not worried about his wrist, and, anybody who's talking crazy needs to watch out, stuff like that. But we're going to see, man. Joe Burrow, he's always going to be under constant threat of getting injured. The Cincinnati Bengals have never addressed their offensive line properly. So he's always going to be a danger of getting hurt. He hurt his wrist last season. So I guess my curiosity with this whole thing is, since when has a wrist injury been considered? And I understand this on his throwing hand. When has a wrist injury ever been looked at as a potential career-ending injury? Like, I don't know. Maybe it's some type of ligament damage or nerve damage in his wrist or something like that. And that's why people are so doom and gloom about the health of Joe Burrow. But I just want to see the guy go into camp. I want him to see him look like himself. And I want to see him go into the season without there being something like it's been for like the last 2 years with, Joe Burrow, well, once he gets healthy, he's going to be good to go. He's going to be rolling once he gets healthy. How about going into the season fully healthy? That'll be nice.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to speculate too much on the injury. There are people that are much smarter than me, doctors, whatever, that I've heard feel very uncomfortable with the injury. So I will trust that for the most part. But I think also another thing that I would just mention that most people will probably keep an eye on is Chase Brown and Zach Moss. That running back room, we've talked about it when we talked about Khalil Herbert. There's some ambiguousness to it. So I think people will keep an eye on that one as well. But let's move on to Pittsburgh, because talk about ambiguity. I think that wide receiver 2 job in Pittsburgh, it could end up being Brandon Aiyuk. It could be Brandon Aiyuk who ends up being the guy, and I guess he would shift George Pickens back into that wide receiver 2 role. But right now, it's looking like it could be Roman Wilson. Maybe it's going to be a guy like Van Jefferson or Calvin Austin. The reality is, outside of George Pickens, nobody is established here. And Roman Wilson, he had a lot of hype at the Senior Bowl. He had a lot of hype coming into the NFL draft. He got the draft capital. We know how good the Pittsburgh Steelers have been historically at drafting that wide receiver position. But it does seem like the hype has kind of cooled off on Roman Wilson. So I'm going to keep an eye to see if that comes back to the front of mind for most people. But like I mentioned, there's a couple other names there. Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin. You're looking at guys at this time of the year where you have the bench space. You can throw some dart throws on. If you want to throw the dart throw on those guys, go ahead. It could be them. Probably going to be Roman Wilson, but keep an eye on that wide receiver 2 role.
Yeah, man. When you really think about it, when you break it down like that, they don't have a whole lot to offer in that wide receiver room outside of George Pickens. And now you can kind of see why people are linking Brandon Aiyuk to that team. Roman Wilson, I do have a share of him. I think in maybe 1 or 2 leagues. I do want to see what's going to happen with him because I'm telling you right now, those are the 2 guys, Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin. Those guys are just like, they're Jags. Like they're Jags. Like they're guys that you could pick up on the waiver wire or they're already on the bottom of your bench. You never expect them to play. Roman Wilson, we actually expect him to ascend on the roster to actually be able to do something. But this is the fun part of Dynasty football. You get to watch the off season. We get to see what the verbiage is coming out of camp, and we could see a scenario where Roman Wilson is the wide receiver 2 for that team. But man, when you really break it down like that, it kind of feels like, man, Justin Fields has to be sitting there like, man, here we go again. I'm not being surrounded by enough talent to do what, and then they're probably going to get rid of him. And then Brandon Aiyuk could be on the team. They'll draft the best running back in next year's draft. Like, this is all this other stuff, man. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay. That wide receiver 2 role is the reason why I'm so getting so bullish on Pat Freiermuth, because you talk about receiving threats there. Freiermuth might just be the second best guy. So I think it's something to monitor. But take us over to the Cleveland Browns. What are you watching in Cleveland?
What I'm watching in Cleveland, I got a few things I'm watching. One of them is very simple. Is Deshaun Watson going to be able to go back to being what he was before? I honestly don't think he'll ever go back to being that Houston Texans Deshaun Watson, but he doesn't need to. He just needs to be somewhere in between what he is now and what he was then, and he needs to stay healthy. He's 2 years, I think he's 2 seasons now removed from all the scandal. People are always going to make jokes about him. They're always going to call him Cosby and things like that. But, the time has passed. So now it's time to put your focus on the field now. That excuse is done now. The expiration date is passed. Like, I don't want to hear, oh yeah, Deshaun, he's still distracted by all the off-field struggle. That's over. Now, let's ask, why are you always unhealthy? Because I'm telling you right now, people talked for years and years and years about why did the Bears take Trubisky over Watson. One of the reasons was the guy had injuries, and now it's kind of rearing its ugly head back around. And the guy's, he's suffering from injuries again. The guy, he was doing well last season. He was starting to actually show competency from the quarterback position, and then he gets hurt for the rest of the season. So I feel like the guy's either been in trouble or essentially hurt for the last couple years, last 3 years, and it's just time, man. Other than that, I'm looking at the running back position. Speaking of injuries, Nick Chubb, are we going to get the same Nick Chubb? Now, an ACL isn't what it used to be. Usually an ACL means that, you better start looking for that insurance job that you're going to work once you're done in a league. But now, people recover from ACLs, but Nick Chubb, he's a different kind of running back. He's a power-based running back, and a lot of his power is generated from the monster legs he has. So now you're going to take out one of the knees. One of the knees are weaker. Yeah, we know when they rehab with the ACL, usually the knee gets stronger, but there still was some damage there. There's a history there now. So is he going to be able to still be the same Nick Chubb, running people over, looking like a member of the Monstars, running down the football field? Or is he going to let Jerome Ford come in, take his lunch, walk away, and be the running back 1 for this team? I think they're going to end up in the 50-50 time split. I think they're going to their plan initially is going to be let's ease Nick Chubb back into things, but I think that Jerome Ford's probably going to make it hard for Nick Chubb to ever get that huge workload that he used to have before. So I think his days of being just a 100% workhorse are over. Bell cow, over.
You got to think too, like that knee injury wasn't your normal ACL injury either. It was more than that. There was more damage. It's going to be tougher in general. And way that I talked about Chuba Hubbard and what he could potentially be at the start of the year, same exact conversation applies here to Jerome Ford. I think Jerome Ford, he's one of those guys that I've drafted a lot of in these underdog drafts. I've drafted a lot of him where I can because he's being undervalued as well. And there's a chance that he goes into week 1 as the starter. I know Nick Chubb, everybody loves Nick Chubb, and rightfully so. I mean, he's a guy who has been very good. He's been underrated, and he's never gotten in trouble, never had a scandal, never had any off the field issues. Like, he's just done everything correctly. And so a lot of people love Nick Chubb. And like I said, rightfully so. But I think you're right. Like, keep an eye on Jerome Ford and obviously Deshaun Watson. We got to see it come together, man, especially too, because they've added Ken Dorsey, who's a little bit more pass heavy as the offensive coordinator, and they got you Jerry Jeudy. So now you have a decent wide receiver room of Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, and Elijah Moore. So let's see what happens. But I'll take us to Baltimore. We'll finish off the AFC North here. One thing that I'm watching, we're kind of talking about injuries and running back injuries. I'm watching Justice Hill, and I'm watching Rasheen Ali. If you don't know who he is, the reason why I'm watching these guys is because Keaton Mitchell, he was placed on the PUP. He had a late ACL tear last year. And obviously the big news about the running back room in Baltimore is that Derrick Henry is now the guy running in this backfield. But also Derrick Henry, he's 30 years old. He's a little bit older. We know the running back age cliff, and he's kind of defied that running back age cliff for the most part so far. But I think that there's a very real chance that Justice Hill and Rasheen Ali, they could compete for the backup job to start the year while Keaton Mitchell continues to rehab. And if Derrick Henry goes down, we've seen plenty of running backs in this situation here in Baltimore have value because of the goal line carries, have value because of the efficiency of running behind Lamar Jackson. So if you're looking for sneaky ads, Justice Hill, Rasheen Ali. If you want to take the really dart throw, you go Rasheen Ali.
But you got to be careful when we're talking about Baltimore here, because Andrew will tell you Baltimore can have 10 running backs on the roster. You get to the end of the offseason, somebody gets cut that you don't expect. Let's say Khalil Herbert gets cut, and you'll think, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, Khalil Herbert. The Cowboys have to be the ones to sign Khalil Herbert. Next thing you know, you found out John Harbaugh has signed Khalil Herbert. So that's just the Baltimore experience. They love to have a ton of running backs, and they love to sign running backs to get cut even when they don't need one. So yeah, I agree. Rasheen Ali, Justice Hill, mainly Rasheen Ali. Justice Hill he's always been a bridesmaid, never been a bride.
Yep.
So I mean, yeah. So mainly Rasheen Ali. We'll see what happens there, but also don't take off the table of them signing yet another running back. But yeah, I could definitely see where you're going with that, Andrew.
I mean, in years past, they've had what? Dalvin Cook, Melvin Gordon. Every guy who's been a guy before who was no longer the guy has played backup running back for the Baltimore Ravens. So I totally see what you're saying. But if you really want to try and find the next, James Robinson, the undrafted, running back that potentially finds a role, maybe your shot is Rasheen Ali. That's all I'm saying.
Right after the video drops, Kareem Hunt has signed with the Baltimore Ravens.
Absolutely. But look, man, I'm going to take us over to the AFC South. We'll talk about the Tennessee Titans, and we're sticking with running backs because why would you not be watching the running back competition between Tyjae Spears and Tony Pollard? Look, they've paid Tony Pollard. He is the guy who most likely will get the first knock at this type of job, but I think Tyjae Spears is more talented than Tony Pollard. So it's going to be a talent versus cost type of situation. And how stubborn are the Tennessee Titans to try and force play the guy that they paid rather than just give the more talented running back the touches? Now, very well, it could go either way, and I'm not saying that it has to be Tyjae Spears, but you got to keep an eye on this because we need to get a grasp of how this backfield and how this committee is going to play out, because both of these guys are going almost identically in ADP currently in your redraft, in your best ball draft. So you have to make the decision between one or the other. You can't say, well, I'll just take the guy who's going later, because they're going the exact same place. So you have to try and keep an eye on this to make sense of it. Something I'm watching very closely.
You won't say they have to go Tyjae. I'll say they have to go Tyjae Spears. You have to go Tyjae Spears. Let me tell you something. If you want to piss me off quick, the first thing you do is remind me that they signed Tony Pollard after Tyjae Spears. We just knew that this was going to be the opportunity for Tyjae Spears. I started buying Tyjae Spears shares. I was feeling happy. I remember in one team, I put him as like my running back one. I said, okay, this is a set and forget. Then boom, here comes Tony Pollard. I hate to say this, and this is not going to sound nice. I hate to say I've never so much rooted for a running back to fail in offense. Like, I'm sorry, Like, he doesn't have to fail. He just needs to basically just continue what he was in Dallas. And Tyjae Spears just needs to show even more improvement. I really want Tyjae Spears to win that job. Tyjae Spears needs to ball out so hard in training camp that the Titans just say, okay, I guess we'll cut our losses. That's what I need to happen. I'm sorry, Tony Pollard. You should have stayed in Dallas, where you would have had a good chance of being the starter again. But yeah, man, I'm rolling with Tyjae, man. That's why I want to win the dang on job.
There you go. All right, man. Well, take us over to Indianapolis. What are we watching here?
I'm watching Adonai Mitchell, man. And you know what, guys? I'm sorry. Yes, me and Andrew have constantly talked about Adonai Mitchell this offseason. Well, guess what? I'm going to do it again. Because as I've said in multiple videos this offseason, Adonai Mitchell should have been drafted higher. He should have been drafted to a team like the Chiefs or something like that. But since he had a little thing going on, they wanted to push him down. And now he has to go to the Colts, where he could potentially become the second wide receiver in this offense, and in the future become the wide receiver one in this offense. That's what you guys have done. You guys have allowed the Colts to get a potential wide receiver one for Anthony Richardson. Now, what do I think he's going to do this offseason? I think he's going to surpass Josh Downs. I don't think he's going to threaten Pittman this offseason, but I do think that he is going to create competition, and ultimately I think he's going to win the competition against Josh Downs because he's that talented. He's talented enough to be a wide receiver one, and he's going to show that in training camp because I'm sure he's hungry. He wants to prove everything wrong like a wide receiver always does, want to prove everybody wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to say it again. Somebody in the comments got really upset when I said this a while back. I think we were talking about like OTAs, storylines or whatever. We were talking about Adonai Mitchell. And I said, when I watch the tape, I see CeeDee Lamb, and it pissed him off. And I'm going to say it again because when I watch the tape, I see CeeDee Lamb. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying he is CeeDee Lamb. There's a reason why CeeDee Lamb was drafted as like a top 12 wide receiver in the NFL draft, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's where it was going. But when I see it. The talent is there. I think he can be a real piece in this offense. And if you want Anthony Richardson to take the step forward into that elite level of quarterback that we want him to be for fantasy football, the Colts want him to be for their NFL team, Adonai Mitchell will play a part in that for him. So speaking of rookie wide receivers, I'm going to take us to Jacksonville. I want to talk about Brian Thomas Jr. because he's the guy that I am keeping an eye on, because you look at how he was drafted in the first round by this Jacksonville Jaguars team. They let Calvin Ridley go in this offseason. You now have this X type of wide receiver that is going to be the wide receiver one, hopefully long-term for your new guy or newly paid guy in Trevor Lawrence, who is one of the highest paid quarterbacks at this time. I'm hearing rumors that might get broken later this week. Maybe I just gave you a Schefter bomb. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. But I'm hearing that might get beat. Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr., this should be the connection long-term. He does still have Christian Kirk, all these other guys, obviously. But I think what I want to watch the most, and not that it's necessarily what I think is going to happen, but what I think would be great to kind of give us some solidified kind of concrete evidence that is what Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be long-term. Because keep in mind, Brian Thomas Jr.'s profile isn't clean. It isn't the cleanest of profiles. There are some red and orange flags on it, but he's super talented. I want to see him come out of this training camp with some hype, with some buzz. We see the big plays on Twitter, and they're catching these long, deep balls from Trevor Lawrence. Let's see that, because that's what I'm keeping an eye out for him in Jacksonville from this training camp.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited because I have a Trevor Lawrence share. The guy, now I'm going to steal your catchphrase. Don't hear what I'm not saying, but Trevor Lawrence hasn't really had that true bona fide stud at the wide receiver one position. I understand Calvin Ridley, man, didn't Calvin Ridley just start off so hot? At first, like we was like, man, Calvin's back, man. This is Atlanta Calvin. And he just slowly petered out and just petered on to the Titans, who love to sign people that they don't need to sign. So he went over there, and now all of a sudden you got Brian Thomas there. He's going to have the opportunity to go over there and develop, be a stud, and he'll get to show the same thing at the same time. We were looking to see if Trevor's going to be a guy, and we're looking to see if Brian Thomas is going to be a guy. They're going to figure that out together. I understand that Christian Kirk is still there. Christian Kirk, he's always been like a 2 to me. So like him being a 1, no. And Evan Ingram is still there as well, I believe. So
Yep.
I've never liked Evan Ingram. I'm not gonna say it's well documented because we haven't been doing Let's Talk Dynasty since I started trap. But Andrew tell you, I've been trashing Evan Ingram since I met Andrew. So yeah, man, I'm excited, man. I'm excited about this Jaguars offense. I'm excited to see if Trevor Lawrence is gonna finally step up and be that guy, and Brian Thomas is gonna play a huge role in it.
Yep, absolutely. Well, let's move on to Houston. What are you watching here in Houston, War?
I want to see if Joe Mixon has lost a step. I mean, Joe Mixon deceptively had a really good season last season. Correct me if I'm wrong.
But he saw RB1 finish again.
Yeah, like, you know, he used to be your son. So I'm not sure. Like, you sent him off to college. So I mean, I'm not sure how close you are with him now. But he used to be your son back when he was just regularly putting up running back one. We kind of wrote him off. And I guess he didn't write back because he, you know, put up another running back one season. You guys heard me earlier in the show when I said I'm not high on running back to switch teams. So here we are. We have Joe Mixon going to another team. And I want to see what he's going to do. These guys, he's in an offense that on paper look like it's about to be hella prolific. You got Stephon Diggs, you got Nico Collins, you got Tank Dell. You got all these guys here. One thing I'm 100% sure, though, of is that there is nothing. And I want to repeat, there is nothing behind Joe Mixon in the running back room. That means Damon Pierce, nothing. Agobawale, whatever, however he says his name, nothing. Okay, like his first name's Dare. I know that much.
Dare
Ogowabli. He's nothing, man. They did nothing to address their running back room behind Joe Mixon. If you took Joe Mixon off of the Texans, they would be like the other team in Dallas. They would have nothing in the running back room. So I mean, I'm almost more interested to see, and I want to know what Gerard Johnson is going to do at this point.
Gerard
Jordan. See, that's how ambiguous. That's a nice way to say it. That's how ambiguous this backfield is behind Joe Mixon. Gerard Jordan. I want to see what he's going to freaking do at this point, because those other guys, don't even get me started on Damon Pierce. That guy that let me down and disappointed me very much. Got to keep things PG here. The guy that disappointed me very much last season, that made the Texans feel like they needed to go out and get Joe Mixon. So that's all I pretty much have to say about that. Their running back room behind Joe Mixon's in shambles. And I pray to God that nothing happens to Joe Mixon, because if it does, they're going to have to put Tank Dell in the backfield.
It was getting off the rails there for a second. Look, man, Bobby Slowick, the OC for the Texans, he has been gushing about Joe Mixon, about how much he likes Joe Mixon, and how good Joe Mixon is going to be. I agree. I mean, you said I sent him off to college. He still calls home every once in a while. You know, it's still a guy that I'm high on. I'm rooting for Joe. Look, I'm rooting for Joe as a fantasy football player on my fantasy football teams. I understand he might not be the best guy off the field. Sorry, not sorry. I don't condone that. But at the end of the day, look, I've had a lot of Joe Mixon on my teams. He's performed very well. Joe Mixon will always have a tiny little piece in my heart for fantasy purposes, because he won me back-to-back championships as my running back in our first ever Dynasty Fantasy Football League. So yeah, Joe Mixon, he's still a guy that I'm high on, and I'm higher than consensus this year. So I definitely agree with you that there is nothing but bodies behind him, and not like lots of good bodies. It's dead bodies behind him right now in that backfield. So it's not good. I'm going to take us over to the AFC East. I am going to take us over there, but you're going to talk to us about the New England Patriots. What are we watching?
What do you guys think I'm going to be watching? I'm going to be watching Mr. Drake May. And I want to echo what we were talking about earlier with the Minnesota Vikings, because it appears, as according to reports, it appears that Drake May would have to be dominant this offseason to overtake Jacoby Brissett. He would have to be dominant. So I'm hoping Drake May is dominant. I'm a little bit high on Drake May. I'm a little bit high on him. I have a Drake May shot. I want to see what Drake May is going to do. And if you guys are wondering, no, me and Andrew have still not made the Sam Darnold for Jacoby Brissett trade. Trade is not, and it's funny because they're literally in the same situation. We're probably not going to be starting, so the stalemate continues. And yeah, man, I want to see Drake May. Like, we could talk about their ambiguous wide receiver room, you know, guys like that, but ultimately it doesn't mean anything if if Drake May isn't a guy. Jacoby Brissett, he's a very capable backup bridge quarterback, but we're going to want to see the guy they drafted high in the draft be the one to take them to the promised land. So I'm hoping that Drake May has the opportunity, the same opportunity that JJ McCarthy has, where, hey, if I put in the work in the offseason, you guys need to let me go out there and ball week one if that's when it's time for me to do it. But if that doesn't happen, like Andrew said earlier about JJ McCarthy, if it doesn't happen, it's fine. They got a guy there. He can learn. He can sit back. He can watch, and he could develop like that too. So we'll see what's going to happen. But that's what I'm going to be watching, whether or not Drake May could win that job in training camp, or if he's going to have to sit and wait.
Yeah, totally. I think many people, you talk about the ambiguous wide receiver room. Many people are also going to be watching who comes out on top. Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, all of these guys, Pop Douglas. That's my guess for what the wide receiver room will look like. But there's also guys there that are probably other people's favorites too. The TikToker, Juju Smith-Schuster, he's still there. There's a bunch of guys. We'll see, man. But I think people will watch that. But in New York for the Jet, I am going to be watching the wide receiver 2 job. And more specifically, I'm watching Malachi Corley. And you guys knew we were going to watch Malachi Corley, probably because Mike Williams has been announced that he is starting the year off on the PUP, and he's recovering from an ACL tear. Yeah, he's recovering from an ACL tear as well. So Malachi Corley, he's going to be the player that gets these number 2 wide receiver reps. Maybe he plays in the slot a little bit. Alan Lazard is there, Aaron Rodgers' old boy. If Aaron Rodgers ever returns from Egypt or wherever the hell he is vacationing, we need to see him go to camp. We'll see, whatever. But he's somebody that I'm watching. I want to see if the buzz, and what I liked about Malachi Corley in the offseason, because he's a guy that I talked very highly of when a lot of people in this industry did not talk highly about Malachi Corley. In fact, Theo, he watches our videos all the time. I saw him on another channel in the space saying that Andrew likes Malachi Corley, and he was pumping me up for liking Malachi. So apparently I'm the Malachi guy in this space. I'm watching him closely. Secondary, I'm watching Tyler Conklin, because Tyler Conklin has been hyper targeted over the last couple of years. Only 4 other tight ends in all of the NFL has seen more targets than Tyler Conklin over the last 3 years. Aaron Rodgers is under center. Maybe he's sneaky as a late round tight end that you just draft if you punt in that position. So Tyler Conklin as well, but Malachi Corley specifically.
Yeah, man, Malachi Corley, we've talked about him a few times on there. We've compared him to Deebo Samuel a little bit. Am I surprised he's getting this opportunity? No, because I feel like it was just last week we were talking about how everybody's overlooking Mike Williams, and like, this is why. This is why.
Yep.
Death, taxes, and Mike Williams getting injured. Those are the 3 things that are certain in life. And of course, he got injured. So of course, Malachi Corley is going to have a chance. Do I think guys like Alan Lazard's going to come in and step into? No, I forgot Alan Lazard was in the league. When you said his name, I said, oh, like, that's how much I forgot Alan Lazard. I get him mixed up with Randall Cobb, the Aaron Rodgers buddies. I get them all mixed up. I think Malachi Corley has a chance. That's the biggest thing when it comes to football. When opportunity strikes, you better knock and you better kick that door down. And this is his opportunity. Like, it's going to sound mean, but you got to put Mike Williams out of his misery for the sake of your own NFL career.
Quickly.
Go in there, ball out, show them that they don't need Mike Williams, make Mike Williams a candidate to get cut at the end of training camp. That's just how you have to be cutthroat about it. And I think this kid has a chance to do just that.
Yep, I agree. Well, take us over to Miami. What are you watching in Miami here?
I'm watching Miami. In contrast to Malachi Corley, I'm going to be watching a guy that you're not high on. I'm going to be watching Jalen Wright. And I'm not so much watching Jalen Wright because he's Jalen Wright. I'm watching Jalen Wright because of the philosophy of the tree that Mike McDaniel comes from. The tree where there's no loyalty to the running back position. Maybe unless you're Raheem Mostert. He always has some. I expect him to get a spot on the coaching staff for the running back at either the Dolphins or the 49ers when he hangs it up. But yeah, that running back room, you never know what's going to come in. Okay, let's have a conversation. This is where I piss people off. All right, Devin A-Chan, the running back version of Puka Nacua. Okay, like, I like Puka Nacua and I like Devin Achane. That's what people aren't getting. I like both, but you guys are just extremely too high on Devin Achane. There is not out of the question. You guys have probably traded 2 firsts. You probably traded studs to get Devin Achane this offseason. How are you going to feel? How are you going to feel when one day Jalen Wright just has a 150-yard game and now all of a sudden they're using Raheem Mostert, Devin Achane, and Jalen Wright? Because that's on the board. Like, that could possibly happen because that's just how the Shanahan tree works. They run with the hot hand. And if you got 2 guys that are hot hands and the third guy comes in and he's a hot hand too, guess what? Now it's a 3-way split. Oh, and don't let Jeff Wilson have a 100-yard game because then it'll be a 4-way split. They do not care. They don't care who's hitting the home runs. They just care the home runs are being hit. And if this guy's one of the guys hitting home runs, then you may well be in a situation where you realize you're an overpaid for Devin Achane.
Fair enough. And look, I can't disagree with the philosophy for the way that they run their backfield, because it is true. They have historically just been find the next guy, find the next guy, find the next guy. You can always find the next guy. I think they're doing it in San Francisco as we speak with Elijah Mitchell and Isaac Guerrero. So I think they're trying to do that right now. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's going to be interesting to watch. We'll see what happens too. Tua also has to get paid. So we'll see if that comes to fruition as well. But I'm going to go to the AFC West. This is our last division. We'll knock this one out and then we'll get on out of here. I'm going to start it off with the Los Angeles Chargers. And more specifically, I'm watching the wide receiver room. We all know I'm a big fan of Ladd McConkey. We all know I talked highly of Ladd McConkey. I fully expect Ladd McConkey to be the lead wide receiver in this offense from a target share standpoint this year. Everything we've heard from the most part is that he has picked up this offense quickly. He's done it easily. And he's playing in the slot. These are things that we want to hear for fantasy football. These are things that we want to hear for his dynasty value. Now, the one thing that I think is interesting and the one thing that I want to watch closely is there was a report earlier today that, Joshua Palmer is looking good. So people are expecting Joshua Palmer to be the number 2 receiver in this offense. And the other thing that was very interesting is that actually at the X wide receiver role in 11 personnel sets, the feeling right now is that it's going to be DJ Shark and not Quentin Johnston as the X wide receiver, which is very nerve-wracking for people who are investing in Quentin Johnston, because if those 11 personnel and if those 3 wide receiver sets are DJ Shark, Ladd McConkey, and Josh Palmer, where does this leave QJ? That's definitely going to be something to watch. I have quite a few pickups of DJ Shark in places off the waiver wire, and it was for this. When you have an ambiguous room, you take dart throws and maybe stuff like this happens. That's why I mentioned the Van Jeffersons. That's why I mentioned the Calvin Austins, because things like this can happen. And that wide receiver room is what I'm watching the closest here in this Chargers training camp.
I think Ladd McConkey is safe. I think he'll be the wide receiver 1. I think that Josh Palmer is safe. QJ. Ah, man, he can't afford to have any more mistakes. Like, he's already, if someone told me he's a bust, I can't argue with it. I think we need to give him one more shot, but man, it's not looking good. What you wanted to hear, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, what you would want to hear if you're a supporter of QJ is, man, QJ looks like a different guy this offseason. He looks like he's in the best shape of his life. QJ has been doing this. QJ's doing that. But instead, what I've heard from this offseason is basically like, we'll see if he could overtake DJ Shark. If that's what's being said about you, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good. I mean, you're right. If you're the QJ manager, you want to hear, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen leave because we feel comfortable with what we have in the room in Quentin Johnston. We feel comfortable with QJ as the number 1, and he's, eating away all of the vacated targets because he's just that good right now. That ain't the case. You know what they're talking about? Ladd McConkey looks really good. We like Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey's picking this up easily. Wow, we watched QJ last year, and QJ didn't pick it up as easy as this. This is great. We love Ladd McConkey. That's what's happening, and it's bad. Who knows? We'll see what happens. I'm watching the wide receiver room, but if you have Quentin Johnston, we're on almost like drop watch with QJ. Like we're getting close to drop watch with QJ.
Yeah, we're in the sad state of affairs where I have QJ and Josh Palmer on one of my teams. I'm like, okay, at least I have Josh Palmer. We're in dangerous territory when that's what's being said.
I think if I could trade my Quentin Johnston for Josh Palmer right now, I'd probably do it.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. So take us to Denver, War. You've been the Denver guy up to this point. Talk to me about Denver.
I only been a Denver guy because they kind of wear the same colors as the Bears. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about my guy. Once again, I'm going to talk about Mr. Bo Nix, okay? Bo, what do we know about Bo? We know he doesn't have, the best arm talent in the world. Some of these other guys are in the receiver class, but we know that Bo Nix is accurate, and we know that you put Bo in a system that Bo is on go, okay? And that's what we need to see in training camp from Bo Nix. We need to see that he's picking up the offense. We need to see that he's dinking and dunking with utmost accuracy, getting the ball to the playmakers and letting them make plays. We don't need Bo to be throwing huge bombs down the field. We don't need Bo to do that. We just need Bo to operate within the offense and we need Bo to be Kirk Cousins, okay? That's what we need from Bo. He doesn't have to be prime Kirk Cousins. He just has to be, show a little bit of Kirk Cousins in him. And that's all I'm looking to see from Broncos camp, because really, when it comes to Broncos camp, there ain't really much else to see.
Everyone's going to talk about Javonte. They want to watch the running backs.
Javonte, man. QJ, Javonte, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know where that rumor of him possibly getting cut came from. I seen that earlier today, too, and I said, the first thing I thought about when I read that is, okay, Sean Payton must just not like him, because I don't know how you go from, okay, he just needs to get healed up a little bit. Andrew, don't get me started on Javonte. I was pounding this table last offseason.
My bad.
Yeah, man. Like, they trying to do him wrong, man. Trade him to Dallas. Send him to Dallas, man. Send him to Dallas. If you don't want to respect him, just send him over to Dallas and he'll prove you wrong. He'll prove wrong. They put him with Dak. And then they both come to Vegas in a year from now. So,
fair enough.
Well, yeah, Bo Nix.
If you know who I'm watching. I'm watching Troy. That's who I'm watching. I want to see Troy take over this wide receiver room. Yes. I'm going to take us to Las Vegas. Las Vegas, currently what I'm watching is this competition between Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, because we've talked about these QB competitions. I think this truly is being talked about as if it's not a competition. I feel like a lot of people are just crowning Minshew as QB1 immediately. I just don't believe that this is the case here, man. I mean, you talk about some of the news articles that have come out, some of the coach talk by Antonio Pierce. What I am hearing is that Raiders week 1 starter is most likely going to be Aiden O'Connell going into training camp. At least it's going to be a true battle. He has earned, this is from Antonio Pierce, Aiden O'Connell has earned the right to compete as QB1 and will have that spot until proven otherwise. Now, I know a lot of people don't love Aiden O'Connell. A lot of people love Gardner Minshew. They paid Gardner Minshew more money than it's going to cost to have Aiden O'Connell. I am not going to be surprised if Minshew wins this battle and if Minshew is the QB1, but the way that it is being talked about in the community right now is that this is a foregone conclusion. I don't think that is what the case is here in Las Vegas, because if you told me that Aiden O'Connell was the week 1 starter, I would not be shocked one bit. I'm keeping an eye on this battle.
Yeah, I think that Aiden O'Connell is going to outright win the battle, and I felt like that from day one. And hear me out. Gardner Minshew is freaking hilarious. He's freaking funny. He's awesome. We all love Gardner Minshew. Shane loves Gardner Minshew. We all love him. We love the mustache. We love the antics. We love the top flight jacket he wears. We love all of them.
Mullet.
We love his dad. We love Gardner Minshew. But look, man, you got to face fact. If the Raiders are like, okay, put it to you like this, Andrew. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you have Aiden O'Connell and you have Gardner Minshew, right, and they're playing the exact same, are they or are they not? And I understand they invested money into Gardner Minshew, but are they or are they not going to take the younger guy who they bought into the building over the guy that they signed that, to this far has only been a backup quarterback? They're going to go with the young guy. So all Aiden O'Connell has to do is take a step. And if he's in lockstep with Gardner Minshew or even a little bit ahead, that's it. Gardner Minshew's back to a backup. I've been watching Gardner Minshew get screwed over like this since his career started. Jacksonville. Oh, I forgot where he went between Jacksonville. After Jacksonville.
Where was he? Oh, Philly.
Like, I've seen several times where Gardner Minshew looked like he was going to get the chance to step up. Jacksonville's where he got screwed over the worst.
Yeah.
That was the worst one. I think he was going against Nick Foles.
Jacksonville, but Jacksonville ended up going and getting Trevor Lawrence, so it was inevitable anyways.
It was inevitable anyway. But yeah, I just think it's going to happen to Gardner again, and it sucks because we all love Gardner, but
look, man, I've been saying it all offseason, and this is his annoyed some people, and I feel like it's made people think that I'm just talking out of, my butt when I say this, but the reality is I don't think that Minshew, everybody's watching receiver. We're all watching Devontae Adams on Netflix wide receiver, and everybody's like, man, look at how bad the quarterback play was last year. It wasn't that good. But then you see in like later in the series, like when Aiden O'Connell gets under center, it's a little bit better. And the pouting and the flamboyance of Devontae Adams over exaggerating everything comes down when Aiden O'Connell is under center, right? Do I sound like a hater? Am I sounding like a hater right now?
It's just funny. It's a funny way to frame it.
It's just it all comes down when Aiden O'Connell's under center. But I've told people, I'm like, I don't feel like Minshew is that much of an upgrade from what Aiden O'Connell was for him last year. And a lot of people are like, well, this is a huge upgrade for Devontae Adams. It ain't. It's kind of the same, maybe a tiny upgrade if Gardner Minshew plays well, but
they're baking how much they like Gardner into their assessment of Gardner. That's what I noticed people do with him.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. I think we're going to have more Devontae Adams complaining and more Devontae Adams pouting and stuff this year too, because the quarterback play ain't going to be that much different than it was last year.
It's not. I also think that I don't care what Devontae says to Shannon Sharp. I also
He
think
trying to get traded.
Just wants to leave.
Fair enough. Well, we got one team left, and we're talking about the Super Bowl champ, Kansas City Chiefs. So talk to me. What are we watching in KC?
And it's the Super Bowl champ, so it's going to be boring because what don't they already have? I'm going to talk about something very simple. I'm going to talk about we're going to be watching Xavier Worthy in camp. I want to know if this kid is just fast or is he actually a bona fide wide receiver. I think it's very important for him to be a bona fide wide receiver. We got Hollywood Brown there, which is weird. Hollywood Brown's no slouch, but he's not getting any fanfare this offseason whatsoever. Which I don't know. Like, he didn't fall off, so I don't know what that's about. Rashid Rice, is he going to get suspended? He probably is for 4 to 6 game, probably. So it's important that we find out if Xavier Worthy can, catch a ball. And that might sound silly because he's a wide receiver. Of course he could catch a ball, but Sky Moore, the other kid that we don't name because he always screws up. Those guys just, they're not ball catchers. So I understand Xavier Worthy set records. He's fast as hell, but can you catch the ball? I'm not looking for the kid to be the next Tyreek Hill. I know that's what casuals immediately go to. Oh yeah, he's fast. He has dreadlocks. He got to be Tyreek Hill. Like, no. No, let's just make sure the kid could catch the ball. I think it'll be wise if they give him end the rounds and like things like that, design plays, and let him use his speed to his advantage. But if they somehow discover in camp that this kid could catch the ball and actually take it home, then that'll be amazing. But I want to repeat this for one last time in the show. It would have been a lot more of a short thing if they just drafted Adonai Mitchell.
Fair enough. I mean, I would have preferred Adonai to go there. I think you are underselling Worthy's talent as a route runner and as a wide receiver. I think we've kind of been on that wave for the most part this offseason. I think you just dislike Xavier Worthy a little bit more than I do, but that's okay because I think I've had my guys where I just dislike them a little bit more, and it's Keon Coleman. We know who that is. The reality is we've already got our highlight. It was surfacing on Twitter right before we filmed this show. Xavier Worthy caught a deep ball from Patrick Mahomes and it went for a touchdown at camp. Like I said, some of these teams have already started. They're going to come out. I think Xavier Worthy is everything that everybody in Kansas City is going to be keeping their eye on for sure, especially because at rookie minicamp, he did not really participate because he was dealing with a hamstring injury.
Yeah, we'll see. And don't hear what I'm not saying. I think Xavier Worthy is going to be a decent wide receiver. I just have PTSD from them drafting guys that are supposed to have blazing speed and them actually being able to combine that blazing speed with the other abilities on the field. So I definitely don't think that is not a possibility for Xavier Worthy to do that. I just want to see it. Like, this show is called What Do We Want to See in Training Camp? What to watch? I want to watch him doing exactly what he did in the highlight, catching bombs and taking it to the house.
There you go. All right, guys. Well, that is it. War kind of laid it up. 32 things that we are watching currently at NFL training camps, or what we want to watch at NFL training camps as they approach this week and next. There you have it. Like I said, team previews will be coming here shortly in about 2 weeks' time. We will dive deeply into every division. Every division will get its own hour-long episode. We will talk in depth about every single one of those teams. But today, 32 teams, 90 minutes, about as quick as we could have got it for you guys, even a little bit longer than we wanted to go, but it's still as quick as we could get it for you guys. Now, if you guys are watching on YouTube and you've been asking, we are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify right now as we speak. This episode is on Apple and Spotify. Those links will be in the description as usual, next to all of the other social media links. So yes, we finally are approved. We are finally ready to roll. All of those things are up and running. If you want to listen to that stuff, all I ask for you is to please give us a review, 5 stars if you like it. Tell us why you like it, what you like about the show, what you like to hear. That would go a long way in showing us some support over on those platforms since we have just launched on them. As always, YouTube is the #1 best place to be to catch all of the content, the visuals, everything you need. It is where we are always going to be here on YouTube. Make sure you are liking this video, subscribing, commenting, doing all of that good stuff for YouTube. And also make sure that you guys are in our Discord. Our Discord, they got the drop on the links 3 days ago. So that is where everything happens as quickly as possible. It's the most intimate experience, I guess, as a fantasy football fan with our community here at the League FFB. Great community, lots of people to talk to, lots of help from myself specifically, and everything, all of that. And if you guys do want to support the show, last little piece, you guys can go sign up over on our sponsors over at Underdog Fantasy. Use code LeagueFFB or use the link that is in the comments or in the description. Just sign up, deposit $10. They will give you up to $250 in bonus cash, and they will that is where you can draft, prepare for your fantasy football drafts, do all of these. I'm in a bunch of them right now. In fact, they just launched college football fantasy football drafts, and I've done a couple of those as well. I got the Shedeur Sanders and the Travis Hunter, the Colorado stack, the Deion Sanders stack. I got that in one of my drafts, so you guys can go do that. Last but not least, War, where can they find you at?
They can find me on Crimson Mask Pro Wrestling, where we talk about WWE, AEW. We post videos every weekend and sometimes in between. Catch us on Crimson Mask Pro Wrestling. Like, subscribe, Pro Wrestling with an attitude.
There you go. And you guys, one more little piece of news. Starting next week, not this week that you are currently watching, but starting next week, we are going to 7 videos a week. So a video every single day. That is just the next level of ramping up as we get into the NFL season. Like we said at the beginning of this episode, it's coming quickly. It is going to be here before you know it. We got to get all the content out to you guys that we can. So all of that coming soon. But if you tuned in, again, like, subscribe, comment. We'll see you guys on the next video. Until then, peace out.